Beautiful sunny day. Not so easy when you're around the pad zone. Lincoln Kennedy knows that. He's one of the many broadcasters for the Las Vegas Raiders, doing the podcast now upon further review with our buddy Paul Gutierrez. Lincoln, it's Cofield. It's Willie. How you doing?
What's up, guys? How you doing? Thanks for having me.
We're good. I appreciate a couple minutes. I mean, what is it like out there when you got to throw the pads on and join practice in weather like this? I mean, that's got to be quite the barrier to break through.
You're probably wishing for more fights to slow down practice, right? Or maybe possibly get it over with, but it didn't happen today. Look, I thought the Raiders and the 49ers had some good work together, and there's a lot of teachable moments. It'll be interesting to see how much the starters go this second game, because since the world has changed with the preseason, that is, the attitude, there's not a lot of times where you'll see a lot of starters play football on both sides of it. But I think for the most part, and I'm just speaking for the Raiders, they need it. Their starters need the work. They needed to learn how to work together, and they need to go out and perform. Now, I know it's not, it doesn't mean anything because it's preseason, but it's a tune-up going into the preseason. And Pete Carroll and his staff has pushed so much energy and so much fine-tuning that we definitely need to see this team come together sooner rather than later.
Link, I was standing with Jesse Sapolo. We were talking, and you look at the laundry list of injuries that the 49ers have coming in, and, he was talking about it can be a little mentally draining. You're out there, you're seeing your guys go down in the first couple of weeks of training camp, your teammates. Can that play a mental mindset? Because George Kittle mentioned afterwards, he was like, no, because if you start you're thinking about it and, playing not to get hurt, that's when you get hurt, you twist something, you stop short. How can that play, especially a guy like you in the trenches?
Well, you got to prepare your body, and look, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. So we're talking about the elongation of the season, but football has evolved to a year-round game in the sense where they're training nonstop. You're putting your body. But the only way that you can get better playing football is by playing football. So when this season comes around, that's why it's essential for you to put on the pads, for you to go out there and go full speed and hit. And Kittle's right. You cannot worry about injury. You can't necessarily play carefree, or not be cautious. But you play with too much caution. That's how you get hurt. You have to really trust your instincts. You have to trust your mental preparation. More importantly, you have to trust your body is going to perform. That's why you have to take such great care of it.
Speaking with Lincoln Kennedy, Las Vegas Raiders podcast, voice of the Raiders in many aspects. Link, many questions over the past few years with the offensive line with this team. Well, now, new coach, new offensive scheme, Geno Smith in town. What have you seen the first couple of weeks? How are you liking what the offensive line looks like?
They're not together yet, but they have to come together, and I think they'll come together soon. It's still a work in progress. Trying to finalize the starting five, there's not a whole lot of depth there. They're going to have some young guys that they're probably going to have to key in and trust, but we don't know that yet until we see the final lineup. But right now, for what it's looking, Colt Miller at left tackle, Dylan Palmer left guard. You got Jordan Meredith at safety. I mean, not safety, center. I'm sorry. I'm thinking of some other stuff. And then you got JPJ playing right guard, and DJ Glaze playing right tackle. Solid offensive line on paper. They have to learn how to play together.
Can you talk about the decision to go with Meredith at center? And we've heard, more and more about him kind of being a speed guy for center rather than a power guy. So I've seen a lot of fans say, we want the power guy at center. Can you explain to fans why they're going with Meredith?
Because the power guy needs to be at guard. You have to have somebody who can cut the defense in half. And there's a lot of times, and right now for what it is, JPJ has the most power out of those offensive linemen that they have, the group they have. So that's what I call it's a word that it's a phrase that I came up a long time ago. It's MEM. Who's your mauler in the middle? And if you go to back some of the great offensive lines, even go back to the Super Bowl championship for the Philadelphia Eagles last year, Dickinson, they just lost their guard. He was their mauler. He was their guy that set the tone. Back in the day, you had guys like Steve Wisniewski, Kelechi Osemele, you even had Richie Incognito, as most recently that I can remember on the Raiders. You had to have that guy who had that little nasty attitude. I think JPJ is that. When you put him at guard rather than center, you force him to just do what he does better rather than having to think about it. The center is the one who controls the offensive line. He's the general of the offensive line. He's the quarterback of the offensive line. When you're out there, we don't want our guys to think. That's the thing. You don't want your guys to think. You want your guys to react. You want your guys to play, especially at offensive line. Putting JPG at guard allows him to just go. Do what you do. Do that ferocity that you've shown in the past. I know he's only been with the Raiders for a year, but what I've seen in college, he has the ability of doing that. try to cut this defense in half so you can start the running game. Right now, they don't have enough of that. That's why the run game has been unsuccessful so far.
Former Raider great Lincoln Kennedy joining us at LKennedy72 on Twitter. Make sure you check him out, voice of the Raiders. Link, with that being said, I know you said they have to come together and play together, but what I'm wondering, especially going against Daly at camp, a guy like Max Crosby, he's so elusive, his first step and that defensive line, each guy individually, their footwork, their athleticism, their agility, is that all there and now it's a matter of coming together? Or do you see that they have to, there are some things individually they have to work on, their quickness and their strength and their agility?
Athletic-wise, they have all the tools necessary. Now you just have to put it together. The better lines that play well together have played well together longer. That's what you don't have out of this group of five. When you mix and match the pieces, this five hasn't played together, and that's what they have to do. And until they're able to do that, that's the only way that you can have a true grade. They're all athletic. They can all do the job individual-wise, but this is not an individual game. This is a team game, and that's why it's essential that this offensive line has to come together and learn how to play together.
3 straight years, 3 different coaches, 3 different cultures. And this has been an up-and-down franchise, as you know, since it got to Las Vegas. What do you like so far about the culture that Pete Carroll's building here?
A lot of energy, a lot of excitement, and he's got, as far as I can see, the entire locker room is bought into his ideology, his thought process. That's great, because every coach I've ever played for wanted that. If you don't have that across the board, it's hard to be successful in this league. So, right now the Raiders, the only real place they can go is up, because they're at the bottom of the division looking up. Didn't have a successful season last year. That's the reason why they had the 6th overall draft choice in the draft. So, this is a chance for them to move up, and I think they're going to be successful. I'm not going to sit there and say they're going to make a deep playoff run or a Super Bowl run. I'm not going there. But I do think they can surprise a lot of people with this defense, with the special teams. If this offense can come together, I think they can surprise some people.